Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Winning on Amazon, Data Tactics That Actually Work. We're going to do a quick round of introductions. My name is Neha Jainvi. I'm your host for this session. I lead product marketing for Similarweb's Amazon Intelligence Solution. I come from ad tech and martech background. I'm very passionate about bringing data stories to life, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. We have partnered with over&back team to join us for this session. Over&back is a tabletop and home decor brand, and they've recently ventured into the world of Amazon. Rachel and Laura, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes, I'm Rachel Dietrich, Senior Director of Ecommerce here at over&back. I have a background in retail, CPG, and e-commerce, all in consumer-facing brands, and was brought on to over&back a little over a year and a half ago alongside Laura to take a wholesale brand into a consumer-facing brand. And Similarweb data has been at the forefront of that for both our Amazon launch, but also how we expand in retail as well.
And hello, everyone. My name's Laura Fisher, along with Rachel. I've been with over&back for about a year and a half now. I have 30 years of experience in the tabletop category, both in merchandising and product development, e-commerce and brick and mortar. But this was my first foray as a merchandiser into the world of Amazon. So once again, as Rachel mentioned, we'll talk through where we found that Similarweb was really able to help us, we think, get a leg up as we were launching. And Rachel will also, really drive home the importance of, data-driven information. And of course, my job as a merchandiser and product development, I will talk to you about the importance of having a gut perspective on product and how kind of those two merge together.
Great. Thank you so much for partnering with us. We'll go over the agenda now. So to kick off things, we're going to talk about how over&back navigated the complexities of the e-commerce landscape. So just to give you a bit of background, they've recently expanded their business model from wholesale to a consumer-facing brand on Amazon. So we would love to hear their challenges and what worked and didn't work. Then we'll dive deeper into their launch strategy. We'll go over the use cases that worked really well. We'll also touch on tips and tricks for other brands who are looking to grow their business further on Amazon. And in the last section, we are going to cover the Q&As. But feel free to send your questions throughout the session. The webinar is being recorded, and we'll share the recording with you later. So before we actually jump into the actual session, I would love to do a quick poll just to get an understanding of what are your biggest challenges in terms of launching on Amazon, or if you are already there on Amazon, how are you trying to grow your products and business? I can see there are a few answers that are already coming in. There are challenges around product assortment, pricing, product views, lack of competitor insights, designing brand store. Yeah, I mean,
This
a lot
is
of
all exactly
yeah.
This is great because this is exactly what I think we'll cover almost every single one of those topics today.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yes, so that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So before I turn it to Laura and Rachel, I mean, thank you guys for answering all these questions. So launching on Amazon can seem really daunting. At Similarweb, we've worked with multiple brands across various categories like toys and games, pet supplies, consumer electronics, and so many more. And there are a lot of key business questions our clients wanted to understand ahead of the launch. Some of them are, is there demand for the categories they are considering to launch in? How to drive product visibility, being a new player on Amazon, how to come up with a winning product assortment, what's the right pricing for the launch, how much to invest in retail media. So Rachel and Laura, do these resonate with you? And what was most critical for you? Because you were entering in this crazy world of Amazon for the first time. Would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure. I'm happy to start, and then Rachel can fill in as well if I miss anything. But really, when we began this journey, I think for any merchandiser, product developer, it was really three areas that we were really trying to quantify. The first is, of course, what should the assortment be? The second is, who are the competitors we want to go after? We all know that Amazon has everything from opening price points to higher end. So really trying to figure out where we were going to be in that pricing matrix. And then lastly, of course, it's, kind of trying to get the data to support all of this. I mentioned before that a lot of the product development that we started working on was a bit of a gut instinct. We all try to know what's going on in the market, trying to get ahead of the trends. But, when it really comes down to it, we were able to use Similarweb to help validate some of these. So we will talk a little bit later in the presentation that we were able to dig down to maybe what were categories that were not on our radar or subcategories that were trending really well on Amazon, bowls being one of them. That allowed us in the very initial stages to kind of pivot and be sure that we were really addressing that in our initial assortment. We're also able, through keywords and what customers are searching for, to understand color. So we'll talk you through that there was a particular color that was trending, and once again, how we were able to use that data up front to really help us launch with what we thought was a very compelling assortment. Understanding, and Rachel will talk this, I know, so I'm not trying to steal her thunder, but really understanding the size of the prize as well was important to us, because while Rachel and I thought we had an idea across the various categories that we were doing, dinnerware, linens, glassware, while we thought we had a good understanding of how those categories ranked out from a volume standpoint, it was really good with Similarweb because once again, we were able to drill down into those categories and really make sure that what we were seeing as volume potential was within the same scope of our categories. So we'll give you an example of that as well. So really, as I mentioned, it was this ability to kind of have a gut of what we thought our assortment should be, who our competitors were, what our pricing was going to be, and really use Similarweb to help us back that with some data, which was really important. As everyone knows, sometimes helping your leadership understand and buy into your vision is important. And it's very, it makes it less difficult when you have data that can help back most of that up.
Absolutely. That's it. I think it's understanding at the category and subcategory level how large each one of them is on Amazon and the growth rates. I am used to using either D2C data or Nielsen market data. And so to be able to essentially have that, I keep calling Similarweb the Nielsen of online on Amazon. To be able to understand the market better is key. Our big piece was, we know we want to set the entire table across dinnerware, serveware, glassware, flatware, and linens. If we were to get 1% of each category, what is it worth? And how does that compare to the over and back business today? Another key piece, like Laura said, is looking at other, we're on the spectrum of good and best, and or a good, better, best, between best and better. And what do the price points look like for each? And then within those, who are our competitors? What does their creative look like? What does conversion look like? And then mirroring a lot of our creative, whether in carousel imagery or brand story or 8+ or storefront, and how to really bring this product and assortment to life once we had defined what that product assortment was.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to add, you are one of the most clever clients of ours who've kind of used our data in the smartest way possible. And we are going to uncover the ways you kind of used our different use cases to launch your business on Amazon and now are actually growing it. So we're going to dive into the specifics of Over and Back's launch strategy. As Laura and Rachel mentioned, we partnered very closely with them and backed their decisions and their gut instincts with data so that they can go ahead with the launch with full confidence. So we'll go over a few core use cases in the following slides. Great. So let's start at the top. Like home and kitchen is a massive department, and within that, there's kitchen and dining. So I was actually looking at the figures for kitchen and dining, and it's a massive category in itself, and it has generated close to $25 billion in revenue in the last 12 months. So within kitchen and dining, there are multiple subcategories. And Laura, you touched on it earlier, and really understanding the size of prize and understanding where you want to put your focus on, identifying those growth opportunities. I would love for you to kind of dive a bit deeper for our participants to help them understand how you can dig deeper and really narrow down your focus area or keep it broad, like whatever works. So it would be great to hear from you about that.
Sure, happy to. So this slide, as Neha mentions, gives us an overview of the categories on Amazon. And when Rachel and I first started looking at this data, I personally, like I mentioned, I have about 30 years experience in this. I was shocked to see how big glassware and drinkware was on Amazon. In my past, normally dinnerware would be the largest category. So when we were taking a look at this at first, my initial gut, once again, that gut instinct was, what is going on with glassware and drinkware? Because that was a category that was not necessarily a category that we were going to actively expand into in a very meaningful way. We were going to launch with a fairly curated assortment. So what Similarweb allows you to do is, let's say you are looking at this, and once again, maybe you're seeing something that seems a little odd. We were able to drill into glassware and drinkware to really see who the competitors were, what was selling. And I think on the next slide, Neha, you have kind of how we drilled down into that.
Yeah.
We were actually able to find that the portable hydration, so like the Stanley tumblers and all of that, was actually grouped into this glassware and drinkware category. And I think we all know that that category right now in the United States is just a massive category. And that is something that I wouldn't consider it glassware, of course, which is the subcategory we're talking about. Rather that it's, more hydration. So once again, that was a way for us that we could look broadly at what's going on Amazon, but then you're able to really drill down into it. And that helped once again validate that gut that glassware is probably not as big of a category as it seems kind of when you're looking in totality or how other suppliers kind of classify their goods. And so when we kind of backed all of that portable hydration Stanley out of the equation, that number once again kind of came down to where we felt comfortable that it's where it should be. And, I think that is the value of really being able to kind of slice and dice this information as much as you want, really. You can get down to the actual ASIN that is the number one selling ASIN in that category. So, you are a little bit restricted at how things get classified on Amazon, but Similarweb will help you kind of get to the nitty gritty, if you will, and then you can then decide whether or not that is applicable to your category or not.
Yeah. We are actually totally aligned with Amazon's taxonomy because we want to make it easier for our clients to do the analysis. So the category breakdown you're seeing on your screen right now, it's exactly how it's kind of shown in Amazon as well. I want to dive into the brand level data as well. Like when you were doing this category analysis, did you pick competitor brands to see how was their sales performance in a specific category, like not just kitchen and dining, like silverware, serveware? How did that work for you?
It was understanding all of it. So the competitors on Amazon and ecom are very different than the competitors in retail. So it was really educating ourselves on who are the biggest players on Amazon? What do we think they're doing right across product assortment, pricing, creative execution, and then also layering in these conversion insights. So being a new player on Amazon, it's going to be more difficult for us to get traffic and page views than the existing players. But of the existing players, which ones have high conversion and what can we learn from that? So how can we mirror our creative accordingly to drive conversion once people are on our page? So we wanted to maximize the clicks and conversions. Another piece was understanding just that no other competitor, or learning that no other competitor was operating across all the different categories that we were entering. So that altered our approach by really a messaging perspective of communicating, we set the entire table. And it's interesting, we were in a review yesterday, and one of the metrics that came about were percent of new to brand sales, and ours is significantly lower than other brands that launch on Amazon. Usually it's expected to be about 80 to 85%, and ours is hovering around 60 or 65%, meaning people are buying from over and back. They understand that we set the entire table. They're coming back to purchase more, and building basket size. So that's just a long ramble about how we're understanding the competitive set and what it meant for over and back.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. We've seen it with some of our existing clients as well, especially if they are operating in multiple categories. So, for example, if you're a beauty brand, you're interested in skincare, you're interested in makeup, you want to know how these subcategories are growing or declining. And we have one of our clients who's in beauty and personal care. They were interested in makeup. So they saw that the category was growing 30% year over year, and they wanted to drill down. They wanted to see if it's eyes or is it face, what's really contributing to that growth. And they were able to do that with this category drill down. I want to talk about the next most important aspect around launching on Amazon, which is pricing. So obviously getting the price right, keeping it competitive, but also maintaining profitability is crucial. I know you launched your products in the mid-tier or premium pricing range, which can be a bit nerve-wracking for a first-time brand on Amazon. So I would love to understand, and it would be useful for our participants, if you can talk a bit more about your pricing strategy.
Sure, I can take that on, and then Rachel jump in if I forget anything. But we knew early on going in that we were never going to be the OPP, opening price point category. So we absolutely, over and back, just from our factory matrix, our core beliefs, we will always be in that mid to upper level tier of better best. So that was something that we personally were not willing to compromise on. Could we have gone lower? Potentially, but we wanted to be sure we were establishing ourselves as, a premium brand, to win the customer's confidence across all these categories. It really does. You've got to be sure that the quality is going to be there in the long run. So once again, what Similarweb allowed us to do is almost yet again validate that there were other competitors that were not in this opening price point category. They were in this mid to upper tier. We were able then to once again see that size of prize, looking at their creative, how they convey this quality aspect to their customer. And so for us, yet again, kind of a gut sense of we will always stand behind quality, which means our pricing may always be a bit higher. But then the data from Similarweb comes in and says, yes, other competitors are successful in this price range, given a very similar quality value relationship. So yet again, it was just that last little piece to the puzzle that, yes, this will probably work. Will there always be a need for a lot of promotional pricing on Amazon? Absolutely. But once again, it at least helped us understand that we were not too far out from where other competitors that we were kind of using as a benchmark were.
I have a
Another
very
piece to this is like in looking in that price quality continuum or ratio, seeing the competitors that are on that upper end of pricing and seeing their photography and their creative. Over and Back's one of our biggest strengths is our in-house photography team out of Porto, Portugal. Everything is shot in-house. So to be able to come forward with not just creative, with showcasing the reasons to believe and the product benefits, but really this lifestyle photography that does communicate that our product assortment is more elevated than the competition in the price points that we're entering was another almost validation point
Yep.
for Over and Back of yes, we can do this and here's why and how.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I have a very interesting question that has come up, and Laura and Rachel, feel free to chime in here. So, if your NTP percentage is lower than average, do you worry that Amazon is cannibalizing sales you've made through brick and mortar or other e-commerce routes? What settles any concerns you might have around that?
The assortment on Amazon is net new to Over and Back. So it's not an assortment that is in retail. Over and Back specializes in custom assortments for retailers. So we don't have the same in-store assortment across any retailer. So this was net new online. So that helped us on the cannibalization front. But if anything, our retail partners from brick and mortar are looking to Amazon and seeing, oh, wow, we think of you just for dinnerware or just for bowls or just for serveware. We want to partner with you on these other categories now too. So it's almost been this symbiotic relationship of us being able to communicate our brand in a really effective way on Amazon, our categories in a really effective way, and then sharing our learnings with retail partners, but then being able to see it firsthand of how we've come to market on the largest marketplace.
Great, thanks for sharing that. So I want to talk about your product assortment strategy now. And how did you align your product assortment with your pricing strategy? Because again, I saw you did something very clever when you were putting the assortment together, and also kind of took care of the varying pricing points to cater to a larger audience. So I would love for you to kind of expand on how you build the assortment around different pricing points and expanded your reach with your potential customers.
Sure, I'll take this one, Rachel, but chime in again if I miss anything. So this is a great example, I think, of my experience in dinnerware. Most of the volume is going to come from a larger set, a 16-piece set, a 20-piece set, a 12-piece set. And as you mentioned, Neha, those sets get into a very high price point, right? So we were able to once again kind of dig down into these subcategories, and really it helped us see that bowls were a category that we all had a gut instinct for trending. I mean, I think we all know that, post-COVID, bowls just have taken off as like the new dinner plate. So to actually validate and see that bowls as a category was actually higher than dinnerware sets, we learned a couple things from that, right? The first is we're definitely going to offer bowls as a set of 4, because that, again, is going to get us into a really nice lower opening price point that we can kind of advertise along with the dinnerware sets, but it at least doesn't seem as intimidating maybe to a customer who's browsing. And then secondly, it actually altered how we were going to configure our dinnerware sets. In the past, a dinnerware set traditionally would consist of a dinner plate, salad plate, cereal bowl, and a mug. When we saw how bowls were trending and some subsequent analysis on mugs, we felt let's not even have mugs in our dinnerware sets. We can offer mugs separately as sets of 4 if customers want them, but we really wanted to play into this consumer appetite for bowls, and we replaced the mugs in our set with a dinner bowl. So it's really a dinner plate, salad plate, dinner bowl, cereal bowl. So really, once again, we're trying to make the most cost value proposition to the customer. Like, we want to be sure what they're buying is what they want. So we don't want them having to buy a set of 4 mugs if they're really not interested in mugs. So as you can see, we were really able to kind of do a deep dive here, and really that played in to exactly how we configured our 12-piece and our 16-piece sets, as well as those sets of 4 open stock. So the sets of 4, of course, afford us a really nice kind of opening price point. But then when you really get to the sets, which is really still the volume driver there, we are very confident that our consumers are responding to the fact that, hey, I didn't want a mug. I don't have to buy a mug, but I love the fact that there's a dinner bowl in the set as well. So really making sure that we were giving the customer exactly what they were looking for.
I think that was very clever. You instantly kind of expanded your customer base with bowls. You were also catering to a lower price point and with dinnerware sets for the premium range that you were going for. I'm going to jump into the next slide, where again, we're going to continue with our conversation around product assortment. But here we are talking about Amazon Search Insights. So Amazon search data mainly is used to identify top performing keywords to improve ranking in your category, but you guys took it one step further. And I wouldn't want to steal your thunder. I would love to understand from you, like, how did you use Amazon search to shape your assortment?
Yeah. So once again, from my experience, the major colors in dinnerware have always been white, black, maybe a gray, maybe a blue. However, Rachel really adopted and was key at looking at various keywords and what was trending. And we kept seeing that green was coming up quite a bit. So what we actually did is, and she can explain it as well, because I think she was onto something, what she calls the Stanley effect. But we definitely were noticing that this sage green was becoming a really important color that customers were searching for. So this is a perfect example of, I, as a merchant, my gut did not say that we should have a sage green in the assortment for launch. Not to say that we wouldn't test it out in the future, but for launch, it was not on our radar. Once we started kind of looking at this data, it became clear that it is something in the market right now that customers are either seeing, they're starting to look for it. And so out of the 3 patterns that we launched with, we had a sage green in 2 of the 3 sets. And now for phase 2, the sage has been such a success that we are adding that sage color into the 3rd now for phase 2. So, you know, once again, these keywords they are showing you what the customers are looking for in the moment. It's not going to assort your product for you, but it is going to be a really good maybe litmus test on, are we missing a color? Are we missing a style? Are we missing a shape or a pattern that customers are looking for? So this was some really fun data that we thought we saw, and I'm happy to report it was in fact the case. And Rachel, do you want to maybe let everyone know
Our
that
sage green accounts for 15 to 20% of sales in the lines that they're on, and we never expected that. We expected maybe it would be mid-single digits, but never this 15 to 20%. This is probably my favorite feature of Similarweb and Shopper, in that we think of keywords for adding to product content, but really it's an indicator of demand. It's consumer search and demand. So to be able to validate, you know, Laura's assortment or gut with this data is key. And it's also been incredibly helpful as we've developed assortments and pitches for our retail partners to be able to back up the products that are shown with data. So this color data and also material data that we're seeing for china versus stoneware versus porcelain, where is the material demand in the market has been key. We've also used it for price packs and glassware. A retailer came to us and said, you know, can we double click into the case packs that are on shelf at our retailer. What are you seeing? And so that's another way we've used the data. So it's really cool how keyword data can be used.
Yeah. I'm definitely one of the consumers who searched for sage green because I love that color. We actually have a very interesting insight from one of our pet suppliers clients using the same use case. So they were catering to both dog owners and cat owners. And what they noticed as part of the Amazon search trend was that there was more searches for dog-related health supplies, and for cats, there were more searches for treats. So they actually went deeper into the health supplies category analysis, and they saw that there was high demand for salmon oil for dogs as compared to probiotics. Again, two very trending categories. And they were able to dive deeper into salmon oil for dogs. They already had a portfolio that was catering to that specific segment. And they brought it in as part of their promotion and marketing strategy, which actually helped them in increasing sales. So I think it's very interesting how keyword data can actually be used for product development efforts or even as part of your promotion and marketing strategy. So thanks for sharing that. We're going to jump into another quick poll now. So the question for you is, what's the most critical insight for traffic optimization? What do you look for when you're trying to drive traffic to your product listings? I'm getting a few answers. They want to know about competitors. They want to benchmark their performance against competitors. Understanding traffic, where it's coming from on Amazon and beyond. Great. I think that's very interesting, and it kind of feeds into our next section. Uh, so I wanted to talk about competitor insights now, really understanding the competitive landscape, who the competitors are, how they are driving visibility to their listings, what channels they're optimizing for. So I know Rachel and Laura, you use this to really understand what your competitors were doing, how were they driving visibility for their product listings, where was the traffic coming from, was it internal traffic, external traffic? So I think it would be really useful for our participants to hear from you about how you actually use this data to your advantage.
Definitely. The main piece here was understanding, okay, we have limited resources, we have limited dollars, limited team capacity. Where do we focus our efforts? Are we going to focus on getting the traffic that's already on Amazon to our product page? Or are we going to try and beef up a marketing organization that's net new to Over and Back to get traffic to our product pages? So that's essentially saying, okay, do we focus on the internal traffic or do we focus on external traffic? And based on what we saw in Similarweb, brands had 80% plus of their traffic as internal traffic. So really needed to double down on Amazon, on an ad strategy and keyword strategy with the help of an agency partner. So starting off with paid and then moving on to an organic on-site search model over time. The other key piece was looking at brand store traffic. So it was interesting to see that such a low percent of traffic was coming from the brand store. But we also work with Similarweb to understand of the brands in kitchen and dining, or I believe it was home actually overall, who had a high percent of sales from their Amazon storefront. So based on that data, we took note of saying we can probably, get a higher percent of sales from our store because people that are purchasing from our storefront have on average a 50% higher AOV than individual product pages. So those insights were incredibly helpful in building our storefront. And it's interesting because about 20% of Over and Back sales on Amazon are coming from our storefront. So we see here a traffic benchmark of about 4 or 5%, but Over and Back based on using insights and designing our storefront accordingly, of setting the full table and communicating that, is at about 20%. So the higher we can get that, the better.
That's amazing. Brilliant. We're going to jump into our next section, which is focused around tips and tricks for the participants who've joined the webinar. You've recently done this launch, and you also made a big switch from a wholesale business to an e-commerce consumer-facing brand on Amazon. Are there any tips on what worked for you, what didn't work for you, that you would like to share with our participants today?
I mean, I think that the biggest tip we can give anyone is don't be afraid to look into questions. Don't be afraid to, drill down a bit more. Similarweb is amazing at giving information, and I do feel like we could have stopped at a higher level sometimes, but Rachel really went in deep on a lot of these categories, and it was really informative to drill down. And there's going to be moments where the data is going to tell you that you as a merchandiser, you as a product developer, that's probably not where you should be spending your time. So I think that the biggest tip was that and I think Rachel just alluded to this, it really helped us kind of know where to focus our energy. No launch is ever going to be perfect. We all know that launching on Amazon is an incredible feat. It is a lot of work. So really, to be able to know that you have data that's helping you understand where you really need to be putting your energy and your focus, I think was key for us. We launched with 300 SKUs. So if we had not had Similarweb to help us really understand that we have a really good feeling that the assortment's right, we have a good feeling that we know who our competition is, we have a great feeling that our creative is going to support our story, our quality, our product. It was really, I think, I honestly think it was a big key to our success launching, is that it helped us focus not only ourselves, but it also, the last point there that I think is truly important, it helped us kind of make sure our leadership was brought along with us on some of these decisions. I think a lot of us understand that when we are launching, when we're doing product, as I mentioned, a lot of it is your gut instinct. To a CFO, to a company owner, what we're doing costs money, right? So to be able to not only have that instinct that were hired to have, right? I was hired to have an opinion on what we should be doing, but then to be able to come back and show leadership, management, that this data actually is supporting that, I think that helped us greatly as well, really to be sure that we're bringing leadership along with us.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. Anything from your side, Rachel?
Yeah, I think, besides sharing data internally at over&back and getting buy-in from the team and leadership, it was also, how can we use this data externally to build credibility with our existing retail partners, get into new retailers by saying we're not only investing in our brand, our assortment, but we're investing in data too, because we want to partner with you to put things on shelf that are gonna sell. So it's built a ton of credibility just from the category level or the color level to say, or if they come to us and say, we're thinking, help us narrow down our 3 colors that we want to launch, and to be able to say, here are the growth rates, here's overall clicks, this one's kind of neutral year over year, but it's been a really nice conversation starter and strategy developer with our retail partners going into top to tops and buyer meetings to be able to come forward with these insights from Similarweb, and then now as a new layer, back them up by what we're seeing sell on Amazon and key trends there. So the data is extremely powerful and has really propelled over&back to the next level as a partner.
Great. There's just one tip from my side, which has been coming up in a lot of customer conversations, which is around 1P and 3P versus sales split. Like brands want to know where the sales leakage is happening due to resellers. So really looking into that 1P versus 3P split kind of gives you an idea to fix the sales leakage, and it's coming up quite a lot. Did you guys look at 1P versus 3P as well for your strategy?
We definitely did. We looked at it by category and subcategory, the percent of revenue, and also the percent of sales that were 1P versus 3P. And then we narrowed down by competitor and sometimes even at the listing level, which one are 1P versus 3P. Because what we see in dinnerware sets is the 1P players can sell at a much lower price point because they're not hit with the same FBA fulfillment fees, storage fees, referral fees that a seller is versus a vendor. So it was another slice and dice essentially of understanding the competitive set and who are we really competing against at the marketplace level.
Great, thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our webinar. We'll go over some of the questions that have come through in the chat. Let's go over to the Q&A slide. So here, as you go over the questions, you can also scan the QR code through your phones and reach out to us if you would like to meet with an insight specialist for your category. We'll be happy to support any conversations over there. So yeah, so I'll go over the questions that we've got on chat. Can you show breakdown of traffic on competitor brands? Yes, we can. So we can show a complete split of traffic, sources that are driving product views to your listings and your competitor listings. You can look at the category average. You can also look at the full split of internal and external traffic. You can select up to 3 competitors and compare all these different metrics for internal and external sources in the same view. This is very impactful data, as Rachel and Laura shared earlier. It shows you where the maximum traffic is coming from. You can see the paid versus organic split to shape your retail media strategy as well. Do you report on loyalty metrics? Yes, we do report on loyalty and retention metrics, purchase frequency, new versus returning customers, subscribe and save revenue numbers. So we help the clients who partner up with us to shape their retention versus acquisition strategy, and they can really deep dive into the loyalty metrics. Is Shopper Intelligence, your Amazon Intelligence solution, available for trial? Yes, you can reach out to us by scanning the QR code here, or you can reply to the email from Similarweb. I think those were some of the key questions that came up. If anyone else has anything else, please feel free to type it in the chat, or you can send your questions to us by scanning this QR code. That's it from us. Thank you very much for joining the session. Hope you found it useful. We'll be sharing the recording with you. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Rachel, for partnering up with us. These insights were super useful for our participants as well as for me. I mean, it's just always great. Every time I speak to you guys, a new use case comes up. So it's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks for having
Thank
us. It
you.
was really fun.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.